Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Voters in the United States of America headed to the polls despite feeling anxious to cast their ballots in one of the nation's tightest presidential races in modern history. Surveys prior to Election Day show the race between Democratic candidate Kamala Harris and Republican nominee Donald Trump is a true toss-up. Some voters find comfort talking to other people while lining up at the polls. Now in Phoenix, Arizona, a group even brought puppies to help ease the day's tension. Trump has already cast his ballot in Palm Beach, Florida. He said he will be the first one to accept defeat if it's going to be a fair election. Meanwhile, Harris visited the Democratic National Committee to thank her team for their work in her presidential bid. Now, Harris or Trump? Who do Filipino Americans want to win in this year's U.S. elections? Here's Jovi Francisco with that report.
Mention a state in the U.S. and most probably a Filipino resides there. But the largest concentration of Filipino Americans can be found in the state of California. And in Los Angeles, there's even an area called the Historic Filipino Town, a place where migrant Filipinos started chasing their American dream in the 1920s. Nowadays, the area is known for establishments owned by PhilAms. And at the center of it all, an activity venue for the Filipino-American community of Los Angeles or FACLA. We visited the place days before the U.S. elections. Surprisingly, there was no election-related town hall meeting, but there was dancing. The senior members of the community were quick to explain that they can have fun on the dance floor because they already voted by mail, like Mrs. Evangeline Carvajal.
I'm always a Democrat.
You are, okay.
Yeah, I'm very proud to say because I researched everything, studied everything,
Yeah.
and with our culture in the Philippines, I know where to stand.
Yeah.
You know,
So you're more inclined to support the Democrats.
of course, and a female president.
Yeah.
The first time to be, we gonna have a female president. Yes, I assure you.
Mrs. Eufemia Nieva, on the other hand, voted for former U.S. President Donald Trump.
People can always change. May mga good side kasi tsaka bad side ang Democratic tsaka ano. Pero we are mostly for me, I mean my community as a Christian is we tend to vote we less evil. Abortion? Hindi. Now I really don't. That's why. That's why my heart is with Republican because you're not supposed to be like that. God is not happy with that.
But the most senior member of the group, Mr. Jerry Dulay, declared he's not keen on voting Trump or Kamala.
Wala. Bakit? Kasi hindi na gaya nung araw, mga presidente, kagaya sila Obama, sila Reagan. I don't care kung Republican man o independent, basta ang inano ko, ang kanilang sinasabi sa eleksyon. Wala, kasi independent ako, wala akong party.
The most recent census showed the population of Filipino Americans has reached 4.2 million. Almost 3 million PhilAms are registered voters. They are among the biggest Asian American groups, ranked third after the Chinese Americans and Indian Americans. When combined, there are 20 million Asian Americans spread all over the USA. That's 7% of the US population, a number enough to affect elections. But Asian Americans, including PhilAms, don't vote as a solid bloc because like most Americans, some are registered Republicans while some are Democrats.
Our swing states are once again in the spotlight, poised to play a crucial role in this year's U.S. elections. Now, these states where voter opinion is divided could determine who will be the next president of the United States. The most watched among these states are Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. Meanwhile, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada are also expected to be closely contested. In these competitive states, voters are divided on issues from the economy to healthcare and immigration, making this year's race even more unpredictable. Now, on the Democratic side, Kamala Harris has a strong base in the Northeast with states like Vermont, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, plus solid support in big states such as California and New York. On the other hand, Donald Trump holds firm in southern and Midwestern states such as Indiana, Missouri, and Mississippi. Now, states like Texas and Florida are leaning Republican but remain unpredictable due to shifting demographics and high voter turnout. We still have more stories after this break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Winston Casio was temporarily relieved from his post as a spokesperson of the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission, or PAOCC. That is after he was caught in a video slapping a Filipino employee of an alleged Pogo hub in Abagac, Bataan. The slapping happened during the raid of PAOCC in the facility last week. PAOCC Executive Director Gilbert Cruz has ordered Casio to submit a written explanation about the incident.
Magkakaroon tayo ng investigation regarding dun sa incident, and siyempre kung makita natin talaga nagkamali siya, then we will be filing appropriate charges kay Director Casio, and both criminal and administrative.
Now, Casio, for his part, said that he slapped the man because he allegedly disrespected a PAOCC staff. Still, he apologized for his actions and admitted his emotions were high at that time.
I should not have done that. I am man enough to admit and realize na mali yung ginawa ko doon. Walang amount of justification, no? Hindi pwedeng sabihin na na-trigger, hindi pwedeng sabihin na pagod ka, hindi pwedeng sabihin na binastos ka. Mali pa rin yung naging reaction ko doon sa pambabastos.
In other news, officials from the Office of the Vice President were absent once again from yesterday's House hearing despite a subpoena. The committee, meanwhile, revealed hundreds of acknowledgement receipts for confidential expenses that lawmakers claim are bogus. Here's the report.
Still no Vice President Sara Duterte, nor the 7 subpoenaed officials from her office in the continuation of the House Committee on Good Government's hearing on the OVP's use of confidential funds. Lawmakers had enough.
We will just reissue another subpoena with the stern warning that the next time that they fail to attend, we will be constrained to issue a much heavier penalty.
Huwag nyo naman kaming hamunin ang committee ito na mag-issue na kami ng contempt order sa inyo.
The committee also revealed they've gotten information that VP Sara's Chief of Staff, Zuleika Lopez, left the country yesterday night aboard a flight headed for Los Angeles. This was on the same day the House asked the Department of Justice to urgently issue a lookout bulletin order against the 7 officials. But the DOJ has not responded as of press time. The 6 other subpoenaed officials remain in the Philippines. Despite the absence of resource persons from the Vice President's office, the congressman pressed on and discovered several red flags in the acknowledgement receipts the OVP had submitted to the Commission on Audit to justify its confidential expenses. Based on his office's study of the receipts, One Rider Party List Representative Rog Gutierrez said they discovered 158 of these receipts, amounting to over 23 million pesos, were incorrectly dated. One receipt even showed an issuance date of November 2022, even if the funds for it had only been released in December. The OVP says these were simple typographical errors.
They said they have inadvertently contained clerical or typographical errors indicating 2023 instead of 2022.
But lawmakers didn't buy it.
I don't think, Mr. Chair, this was a mistake that was committed in December 2022. This was a mistake that was committed after the fact, after the AOM, and after the notice of suspension, when they were rushing to comply with yung mga butas po na lahat ng COA. So it could also be na these are ARs belatedly prepared.
Lawmakers also noted some receipts bearing different signatures made to appear that there had been different receipts, and some had no signatures at all.
We're talking about a single payment for 400,000 pesos as a reward payment, which could be anyone because hindi nga po signed. Kung sa mga signatures nga po, nagkakaduda tayo kung totoo yung signature. Paano pa kaya pag walang signature at all? How do we know that this person exists?
One lawmaker said it appears that only one person signed them all, VP Sara's Assistant Chief of Staff, Lemuel Ortonio.
Ay dalawang bagay lang ang nangyari. Di ba? Kasi either ibinulsa nung ni VP o ni STO o ginamit sa ibang bagay. There are only 2 things na pinuntahan yung pondo.
The other thing that came up during the hearing was that the Vice President's spokesperson, Attorney Michael Poa, had resigned. His contract was supposed to have run until December, but Poa said he could no longer fulfill his obligations. For News 5, I'm Marian Enriquez. We are One News.
Now, speaking of Michael Poa, he has already confirmed that he has left his position as a spokesperson of Vice President Sara Duterte. He revealed this yesterday during the House hearing on the alleged misuse of funds by the Office of the Vice President and the Education Department. Now, Poa told lawmakers that his contract was pre-terminated and it was a mutual decision between him and Duterte. Poa first worked as Duterte's spokesperson when she was the Education Secretary. Now on to sports. The UAAP elimination games are coming to its final stretch. After winning over UE and UP, the FEU Tamaraws and NU will face other semis contenders. Meanwhile, the UP Fighting Maroons and the DLSU Green Archers meet for a grudge match in round 2. The game between FEU and LaSalle is set later at 3:30 in the afternoon at the Mall of Asia Arena. And come 6:30 in the evening, NU Bulldogs and the USC Growling Tigers will battle it out. Well, as polls are starting to close across the United States, millions of Americans and Filipino Americans await the results that will shape the country's future. And here in the Philippines, we're keeping a close eye on the outcome as it could have significant implications for the Philippines-U.S. relations and policies impacting Filipino communities abroad. And for more updates, we have our One News anchor, Jovi Francisco, reporting to us all the way from Washington, D.C. in the USA. Jovi, good morning. We're now approaching the final hours of the U.S. elections. How's the situation there so far?
Good evening, Pauline. I left the polling precinct at the Martin Luther King Jr. Public Library because it will soon end allowing voters to come in and submit their votes. I am now here at the Union Station in Washington, D.C. because I'm trying to locate what line I should ride going to Howard University. You know what's in Howard University? Vice President Kamala Harris will be there after her dinner with the family to join the student supporter or her student supporters for a vigil while they're watching the count and the eventual results of the U.S. elections. Pauline.
Okay, but Jovi, how was the voter turnout this year for this particular elections? We know that a lot of Americans say this particular presidential elections is very consequential for not just their history, but for all over the world.
Pauline, in the morning when we were covering the precinct assigned to me by the City Hall contacts we have, it was noticeable that there's only a few people lining up to vote.
Okay.
But when afternoon came, there were lots of people who suddenly arrived, and there's a long line from the starting point until at least 2 streets away from that building, Pauline. So I also saw some reports from the other stations covering this event here in the U.S. And some states also saw lines in the voting precincts because they really want to show up and vote for the future of their country, I guess. Sound corny as it may sound. But, you know, even before today's face-to-face or actual voting in the precincts, they already voted even before that via mail. So there are around 79 million votes cast even before today.
Okay, Jovi, now that we're already approaching the final hours of the elections, no, yung
Yes.
polls, the question is, no, how soon can we expect results? They're saying because the race is so tightly contested, this could mean possibly a longer wait for Americans before they find out who the winner is, who the new U.S. president is. Is that what you're seeing there? I mean, could it take days, or could we actually find out who the winner is already by today?
Okay, sorry, Pauline, I'm moving because security
Okay.
is telling us to move. But anyway, regarding that question, of course they want to finish the count at least before this weekend. We don't know if there will be a final result tonight. Usually, oo, pero mukhang malabo because of the last elections na inabot ng weekend. So they're trying their very best. Pero nasa watch party yung dalawang kandidato. So tingnan natin baka may mangyari dito sa mga susunod na oras.
Well, actually, Sir Joey, no, as of 7:23 p.m. Eastern Time, well, in this electoral map by Reuters, Trump actually already has 19 electoral votes, and that's from Indiana and Kentucky, while itong si Kamala Harris has 3 electoral votes so far in Vermont. But as we mentioned, no, it's still the early hours of yung kumbaga nung paglabas ng mga resulta, so we will be monitoring that. But I heard...
we will be monitoring that,
yeah.
Pauline, because some polling precincts or some states will close the vote by 9 p.m. the latest. So there's still about 2 hours before that.
Okay. And Sir Jovi, I also heard you got to speak to some members of the Philippine embassy there in the U.S. I mean, how are they seeing this particular U.S. presidential elections?
Okay, so I was able to talk to Ambassador James Romualdez earlier today, and we talked about the effect of the results of this election in the partnership between the Philippines and America. He told me, or he told our station, that there will be no effect. It will still be the same, and that the Mutual Defense Treaty will continue. That's his assurance, and that's something he stressed during that interview. Well, if sabi niya, pag nanalo daw si Kamala, parang continuation ng mga pronouncements ni Biden. Kapag ka naman si Trump, pwedeng same lang, pero baka daw magbago lang, magtitweak lang pati sa ekonomiya.
Okay, and Sir Joey, kanina we saw your report with some Filipino Americans, particularly in Los Angeles, no? And hati sila, they're divided. Some are for Trump, some are for Harris. And we also saw there that 4.2 PhilAms actually make up a huge chunk of itong Asian Americans there in the U.S. But when it comes to other issues siguro na that are close to them, what are they aside from, of course, the economy and inflation, ano? And what are you seeing? Is this a generational thing? Kaya hati din yung preference ng mga PhilAms dyan? Kasi parang in Ohio, I saw, dun sa mga urban cities, they're more pro-Harris. But when it comes to suburban areas, parang ano sila doon pro-Trump sila. Is this a generational thing, a gender thing, cultural factors po ba yan?
I think halo depende sa mga paniniwala. Believe it or not, may isa tayo na interview na because of faith kung bakit napili niya yung kanyang kandidatong ibinoto. So halo iba-iba, pwedeng generational because some of the people na nakausap natin ay nasa parang mas senior yung yung age nila, pero may mga bumoto doon na parang for the Democrat dahil Kamala yung binoto nila, no? So parang iba-iba siya, no? Kaya lang ito lang yung napansin ko na medyo kakaiba doon, Pauline, kasi bakit kapag ang binoto ay si Kamala Harris o si Vice President Kamala Harris, yung taong yon parang i-declare niya ng talagang buong-buo o kaya ay ng malakas, ng hindi nahihiya. Pero kapag nakaka-interview kami ng mga Pilipino or PhilAms, kapag binoto nila si Trump, sabihin sa atin na pwede bang off-cam na lang ito sasabihin sa inyo, or wag nyo lang sabihin na ako to, pero ito yung binoto ko. So how come merong iba takot aminin yung binoto nila? Yung iba naman, they're proud of saying kung sino binoto nila.
Oh, that's interesting, ano? The stark contrast between being vocal na itong si Harris, they're Democrats, pero pagdating kay Trump, medyo secretive. But we'll have to wait and see, no? The actual outcome of these U.S. presidential elections. For now, Sir Joey, I know you still have a train to catch. So thank you very much for...
Yes. Pauline, pasensya na nakita mo yung nilakad ko. Wala na sa loob, nakalabas na ako dito sa ano. Dahil, alam mo, at buong maghapon yata ako nakipaghabulan sa mga sa mga security or sa authorities. Ano, medyo strict sila ngayon because hindi ko lang na-share agad, ano, pero before this, I was reporting doon sa US Capitol. Talagang naka-cordon na ba tawag doon? Or basta may mga fence na just in case na may mangyari ay hindi agad makakapag-formation doon kung sino man yung gustong ulitin yung nangyari noong January 6 years ago. Ano. So medyo kanina kausap ko yung producer natin, talaga ang lakas ng mga sirena ng police at saka ng militar. Sa kailang mga sasakyan. Mukhang ganyan yung sitwasyon ngayon because it's election night here and everyone's waiting for that count. And we all know that at least one of the two major candidates ay in town dito sa Howard University waiting for the results.
Waiting for the results. Maraming salamat once again. That was our One News anchor, Joey Francisco, reporting live from Washington, D.C. Now, are you also wondering what exactly is the Electoral College? Well, unlike in the Philippines, where a candidate has to win the popular vote to get elected, in the U.S., a presidential candidate needs to win 270 electoral votes to win the election. Now, there are currently 538 electoral votes allocated across the 50 states of America. And the number of electoral votes per state depends on their population. With a population of 39 million, the state of California has the most number of electoral votes with 54. It's also a winner-take-all situation wherein the candidate with the most number of votes in a state will get all of its electoral votes. So for example, if Kamala Harris wins a popular vote in California, she will get all states' 54 electoral votes. But if California is not the main target of presidential candidates, since it has been historically a blue or Democrat state, Harris and Trump have extensively campaigned in swing states, or what they call battleground states that can be won by either parties. Now, getting these states can further solidify their chances of winning the U.S. presidential seat. The 7 swing states are Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 9 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. I'm Pauline Verzosa. We are One News.